Then we have banana peppers here. Some more. These are a decent size, but I'll leave them on there. I don't like that this plant is only about a foot tall with these huge fruits on it, but I'll have to figure out how to top off our plants next year. Here's our okra plants. This guy's not doing so good. He's not doing so good. Those are the red burgundy variety, but you can see we have some okra. Little pieces here. Pieces. What am I talking about? That's an okra. I made a video. Check the description below. You might find the video of me eating okra for the first time. It was fun. They're delicious. Look at this. Squatty pod. This is the Star of David okra. It's gorgeous. These plants get to be like 6 feet tall. They're not so much that big right now, but they are producing, which is nice. There's another okra. Look at this tomato. Oh my goodness, it's huge. I have him in a cage so he can be supported. Hi, Molly. I planted this sunflower. I don't know. I hope she gets big. This is called a strawberry blonde. I bought the seeds from Esty, and they're beautiful. The heads get huge. These are our tomato plants. There's all different kinds of varieties, and they have a lot of fruit. These are kind of smaller. I don't know the varieties. Oh wait, here we go. Cherokee purple. That's huge. Like I said, holy cow. It's like Christmas. Look at these. That's huge. This one like has 2 belly buttons underneath it. I am growing these tomato plants on a cattle panel trellis. This is called the single stem way of growing tomatoes. Single stemming, I guess is what it's called. I've seen this method on YouTube quite a bit, and on one of my favorite channels that I watch, Roots and Refuge Farm. She trims them down to a single stem, and they produce more prolifically in their fruit, and they don't get heavy and overbearing and weigh over and tip over and break off and stuff like that. So it doesn't look like there's a lot of foliage, because there's not, but they're still going to produce the same amount of flowers and be a healthier plant. As you see at the bottom, we trim from the bottom up all the foliage up to about a foot. That right there gives us more airflow to come up underneath the plant after it rains and kind of dry that out, so there's no signs of blight. You don't see any yellowing of our leaves at the bottom of the plant as you would if the plant was touching the ground or closer to the ground. We use these little clips here to clip them to the trellis, and they have a lot of nice support. We also come through and trim off the suckers. You can see them like right here. Here's a perfect example of a sucker. This little branch here in the armpit, we pull that out because that's gonna try to create a whole nother plant. Here's another one right here. So when I come through the garden, that's what I basically do. I have an eye for these and I just pick them off, and that's how the plant gets so tall. Looks like I missed one over here. It kind of grew up too much. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that one. But that's how we've been trimming our tomato plants. I am not certain about these tomatoes. These are super short, so I'm not sure if these are a determinate variety. You're not supposed to trim the suckers off the determinate variety, and some of these seed packets I got from seed exchanges, and they weren't labeled as if they would be labeled if you bought them at the store. So my guess is on these tomato plants that are only about 2 feet tall they were determinate varieties, and we screwed up by pruning them back because they're such dwarf varieties now and they're really short. So it's something to pay attention to next year. They are setting a lot of fruit. Like these are Roma tomatoes. They are setting a lot of fruit, which is great. I love to see that they're blushing finally. Gosh, that seems like an eternity. If you grow tomatoes at all, you know that when you're waiting for a green tomato to blush, it sucks. It takes forever. More tomatoes over here. We'll have to tie these up because once these start setting fruit up here, this whole branch will be on the ground, so we'll definitely tie that up. nice big tomatoes here. Tons of marigolds. Oh, that's awesome. We had a casualty. I don't know who did that. Maybe that just fell down there. That's 2 branches, 3 branches with a big old tomato. So I'll leave that. Let somebody else eat that. Maybe they'll go for the low-hanging fruit. Maybe that's where that came from. Oh boy. This guy. He's probably not going to do so good. His branch broke. I did tie up the branch. I'll tie him up over here too. So see if we can get him to survive. I think I can save that guy. Pretty zinnias throughout the whole entire garden. These flowers have just amazed me. I can't even believe the beauty of the flowering of a zinnia. It truly blows my mind what God has given us in a zinnia flower. And then we have this other row of tomatoes here. I'm going to come through here. We came through on Saturday. I tied up a bunch of these plants so that they would not hang over. This was planted incorrectly. I did not mean for it to be like this. There's actually 3 rows of tomatoes here. Is there 3? Let me see. 1, 2, 3. Yes, there's 3 rows of tomatoes here. There's a row on each side of this cattle panel, and then we tied them up to the cattle panel. However, the mistake we made this year, I should say I messed it up. I didn't alternate the plants, which I should have. I should have kind of zigzagged them because we're tying them up right next to each other, across from each other. Next year, I'll do a zigzag pattern, and then I'll also incorporate another cattle panel here and scoot the plants closer, and then do another cattle panel here. Because this is the 3rd row, and we had to use cages because they weren't close enough to the cattle panel. And this is a really pretty tomato plant. Look at that. I don't even eat tomatoes, but I love to grow them. And then this row of tomatoes here. Again, this looks like a little dwarf variety because it doesn't get very tall. I think I screwed up by pruning off the determinate varieties. Oh, look at that. That's pretty. Look at that. It's so nice. And then let's take a look at our zucchinis and our squash. Let's see how they're faring to me wrapping their stems with foil. Lots of squash flowers. That's a nice baby zucchini down there. This is the okra zucchini plant going in 1. Any in there? Nope. Bunch of flowers though. Oh, there's another baby zucchini in there. See, we wrapped the stems with foil to keep the vine borer away. I saw that zucchini on Saturday. It was not ready, and it's ready today. I love seeing that. That's a bee. Pollinators hanging out. They're at the Ginger Creek Cafe. That's another ready zucchini right there. And another one in there. That's good. Oh, yellow squash. And then this row is all yellow squash. And they're doing pretty good. We did have some powdery mildew on one of our plants. We picked off the powdery mildew leaves, and this was the plant that it was on, and I don't see any more powdery mildew on here, which is great. Big blossoms on this yellow squash. And that one's just about ready. We had some tiny measurable rain. Empty that gauge. So now, let's head over to the other garden. Let's try to do this with the kids in the kinder care. Okay, now we're over here by the raised beds. So these beds are pretty crazy. We've made a couple mistakes, but we're gonna let them go. We're gonna err on the side of just leave it. But I'm so excited. And there's one mistake that I made. It's so funny. I can't wait to share with you. This little squash, I don't think he's gonna make it, but he's not bothering anybody, so we're gonna leave him. These squash are doing quite well. No signs of disease. I'm gonna grab some foil and wrap them around the base of these to make sure we don't get a vine borer. This is an okra. This is massive. I don't know what's going on with this okra. Look at this, how big that is in there. I've never seen an okra plant that big in my life. So it's almost like a morph kind of thing. This is not an okra. This is a weed. When we had okra in that garden over there, we planted 3 seeds per hole and all of them sprouted. So I weeded them out, I pulled them out, and I brought them over here and transplanted them because I didn't want to kill the plant. Well, this was really tiny. We brought it over here. Well, it was a weed. So yeah, we're growing a pretty weed. I didn't realize that, but it's got pretty flowers. We'll leave it. And then this is our Benikodima watermelon. We have some cute little melons on here. Look at these. We got some produce bags that we can actually tie these up so that they are not as heavy on the nylon string that we have. We staked up some of these tomatoes because they were getting buried by the squash plant. These squash plants are beautiful. I am so proud of these. They're massive. Massive. I wish you could see how big they actually were. It's really hard to see them on film. These are called Brad's Atomic Grape tomatoes. These are probably the prettiest tomato I've ever grown in my life. Not pretty. Once they start, that one cracked a little bit. That's just too much water at one time. Once they start blushing orange and red like this, then they're ready to pick. Like this one too. He's ready, even though he's really tiny. This one's ready. That's a beautiful tomato right there. I gotta just pick it to show you. Like, that's just beautiful. But these are like a saladette size. This is probably as big as they'll get, but they are pretty beautiful. That's why I like them. Tons of tomatoes in here. Now look at these tomato plants. See the difference in how bushy these are versus the ones at the other garden? The reason that we left them like this is to show that you can grow tomatoes like this and let them get big and bushy, but they are going to struggle with some blight and some issues of curling leaf and stuff down here at the bottom. You can see it. That's because there's no airflow down here. You can see blight on these branches. Again, that's happening because we're not trimming from the bottom up like we did the others in the other garden. A lot of leaf curl happening over here. So that's the reason I wanted to show how we do single stem pruning in the other garden, and we have not barely pruned these at all. So I wanted to show the difference in those, and I don't know how many tomatoes that will produce. This is the orange honeydew. We're kind of just letting it do its thing here. These are Brussels sprouts, so they're going to get tall and start producing fruit. Our beautiful sunflowers all along the back wall here. We have those going. I've not seen any fruit on this plant yet. I don't know how long that takes. But like I said, we're just leaving it to watch what happens. I'll have to come back through here and look for some female flowers. And then pepper plant. Oh, look at that dragonfly. Oh, let me see if I can get him. Can you see him? That was pretty cool. Peppers. Lots of peppers. Big peppers. These are not green peppers, I promise you that. They are a color variety because all of my peppers that I grew were red, orange, and yellow. And then I did grow green peppers, and they are tiny plants like this that have just the tiny little green peppers on them. Just like that. Going over here, obviously have a little zinnia patch for some pollinators. And then this is the nutmeg melon. And again, I haven't seen any fruit on here yet. Got to come back over here and look for some female flowers and see if we're going to have any fruit on here. We will. It's just taking a long time. I don't know if I planted them too late or what. Then we have 4 eggplant here. Eggplant is such a beautiful fruit. There's one down there. Let's see. There it is. Those, I don't even know how big they should be when you harvest them. I think the last one I harvested was about as big as my hand. And this is a pumpkin. Beautiful pumpkin flowers. You see pollinators in there. These blossoms are giant. Giant. Oh, they're so pretty. We have 2 pumpkins now. Merry Christmas! There's another pumpkin right here. And our other one. Ready? There it is. So, that's so exciting. Squash down in there. Looks a little yellow. Maybe it's getting too much water. For some reason that hole fills up with a bunch of water. I don't know where the water's coming from, but that's why we didn't plant anything right there. And plus, I know that pumpkin's going to take over. More squash over here. And that's that. So here we are at the raised garden bed at Ginger Creek. So I hope you enjoyed it. I just wanted to make sure that you got an update of what was going on here in the garden. I know it takes kind of long, but I just get so excited and I talk a lot about it because I really enjoy it. So I want to thank you very much for joining me today. If you do garden, I hope you have the very best of luck in your gardening adventures. I hope to see you in the next video. Take care and God bless.